All right, man. So it's a lot of talk. I even see Shannon Sharp agree with me when it came to Maxx Crosby, saying that Maxx Crosby isn't like that for them to be asking what they asking. And some people got mad at me when I say that, like, well, and I get it. He's a local guy, that people want. But I'm not trading the 2-1s and a premium player. Like, he not Micah Parsons. I'm not sure if I would trade a 1 for him, to be real. And that's just my opinion on that. Right? I think the Lions, Maxx Crosby is nice with him and Aiden Hutchinson, but I think there needs to be they need an athletic defensive end. I'm gonna keep saying that. They got a strong guy if they're gonna bring back Josh Pascal. They got somebody super strong. Michael Parsons, what made him so dangerous versus the Lions last year was his speed. His speed is, they need somebody in that front that is fast. James Pierce would have been perfect, but maybe not because he got in a little bit of problems. So I hope he get through it. But let's talk about y'all. The Trey Lions start playlist. Notes of the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And he'd be like, well, some people is like, well, you can get Trey Hendrickson. So the issue is this, right? Either way you look at it, you're competing with the competition for Trey Hendrickson or Maxx Crosby. So when you go with Maxx Crosby, you're competing with the competition by trying to put the best trade package together. Now, we won't know who's willing to do what for Maxx Crosby until they make him available or until it's done. So we don't know what they're willing or what they're not willing to do for Maxx Crosby, okay? But also what I will say, moving on from that, Trey Hendrickson, you competing with a multitude of teams that want Trey Hendrickson. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. I think Kansas City can make a lot of money. And really for him, I think he wants to go where he can get his money at. I don't think it's even about, if they don't tag him again, I don't even think it's about winning, right? I think he wants to get as much money as he owed. He's a little older than Maxx Crosby, but he's productive. This year he played 5 games. I don't think that was a coincidence. So I don't feel like that was a coincidence. That's my opinion on it. Now, moving on from that situation, like, who would you rather have? And most people gonna say, well, I'd rather have Maxx Crosby. But under the circumstances, if I don't have to give up nothing to get Trey Hendrickson, I mean, really, is it really a big difference? But the thing is, you trade for Crosby. The trade-off is you trading capital in a player away, and you got to pay. You trading for Hendrickson, you got to trade money. You got to get money up. And you got to compete and beat out other teams and him wanting to come here. Now, the possibility of him wanting to come here is high. Because if they're willing to pay, because he can win. But you got to remember, this is probably his last large contract at 31. But before this year, he's produced a multitude of double sack season, 17.5 sacks. But also on the flip side of it, there's a deep defensive end draft. There's a deep tackle draft. And I'm going to talk about the report that the Lions are looking to get a tackle. Now, people saying, well, they need to look to get a center. If the reports are true and they're looking for a tackle over a center, well, I think you already got your fucking answer. That Tate Ratledge is probably going to move to center. Graham Glasgow is probably going to be a cap casualty, as he should be, respectfully. You're probably going to get Mahogany moving over to right guard. And realistically, if we're being honest with you, they're probably still going to take a tackle. And if, you're previewing the video that I plan to cut, the Walker kid from Green Bay is who I believe they're targeting. 96% pass block grade on that backside. They need him to pass block. I think you'll still see them take offensive tackle early, play at my guard. And then whatever happens from there, whoever they get, that tackle will move the guard. That guard will move the tackle eventually. So that's what I believe is going to happen, or they want to happen. But to keep it real with you, it's deep at defensive end. They need somebody that can run. Bare minimum. They need somebody that is elite athlete at that defensive end position. No more big, strong, brute guys. They need strength. They need speed. And strength if you can get it. As far as who fit the bill better between Hendrickson and Maxx Crosby, I mean, they both solid. You hear people talking about Joey Bosa. We just need durability. Hendrickson before this year been pretty durable. I be talking about Crosby being durable. But if I had to boil down to it, you know, it don't matter. If I don't have to get no capital up and I can get Trey Hendrickson, I'll plug him in. But if me personally, looking what in the combines coming up, but how the draft is looking, I can get a tackle and a defensive end. I'm rocking with that. I'm just going to get it out the mud. And if I can, find a defensive tackle that can rush the passer in the draft, then maybe at that point I get it. But their glaring need ain't defensive end. It's a need, but their biggest need is somebody to rush the passer in the middle of that defense. And if they get somebody that can push the pocket in the middle of that defense, whether Liam McNeil can come back to form, whether Tyleik Williams can lose some weight and do it, or somebody else, that's really it. But if they can get another defensive end, I'm not mad at it, but between the two, obviously by the numbers, Trey Hendrickson been the better player. He been the more productive player. But honestly, I'll probably get Trey Hendrickson if I can get him for free agency, but he still can get tagged. So tomato. But if it's me, I'm just, deep draft defensive end. Maybe I'll take some of that money, bring back Alquay and Muhammad, draft a defensive end, draft the offensive lineman. And we just gonna rock. But if I'm going to give up draft capital for somebody, it gotta be like a Myles Garrett. If I'm going all in, it gotta be a Myles Garrett. Somebody of that ilk or somebody of that with that athleticism. But also going to talk about Denzel Ward. He can be cut. That might be something that the Lions would look to do. Getting rid of Amik Roberts probably, might be another cap casualty with Terrion Arnold in his rack straw. Or, I believe they can make enough money where realistically you can bring in Denzel Ward from Cleveland. Him and DJ Reed can be your starting corners. Plug Terrion or Ennis Rackstraw the nickel. You can move forward with that. But we'll see. It's a lot of stuff to go on. BB, see what he do coming off that Achilles injury. Kirby Joseph coming off that knee. So it's a lot to be asked. But if you're talking about Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa, only way I do that if I draft a defensive end early and they just a compliment to that defensive end and Aiden Hudson, or if I go get a Hendrickson or a Crosby and they want to compliment, that's it. But if you had to ask me under the circumstances and I could just sign Trey Hendrickson as a free agent and not give up nothing, I don't think it's a gap between him and Maxx Crosby. But in my opinion, I would prefer just to draft one of those fantastic defensive ends. So just my opinion. Check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist. Hit the link in the description. Sites find me everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Cash App, Instagram, X, the whole nine. Appreciate the love and support. One time for the one time Murder City Sports Talk. Peace.